Hi everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA. Today it's myself, Seamus Brady, and I have Luke Payton with me, and I have Matt Hurley, commonly known as the GAA Statsman, here with me. How's it going, lads?
Oh, good,
Not too
good,
bad,
Seamus.
Seamus. Not too bad at all.
Good, right. We're going to be doing a preview of round 4 of the Allianz Football League. We're going to start with Division 1 and the Saturday game, Donegal against Tyrone and Ballybofey. Matt, I'll come to you first. What do you make of how both these counties kind of started the league campaign? Obviously, Tyrone getting their first win last weekend. Donegal as well, beating Kildare, but then had a poor result against Kerry there last weekend.
I think it's a case of the two teams just happy to survive, to be honest. Shown by Tyrone's first few games and the game at the Dr Hyde Cup against Cavan. I know pre-season doesn't really come into it as we come in to the midpoint of the league season now, but it was probably an indicator that Tyrone don't really care about the likes of pre-season competitions or the start of the league. Their aim is to probably win Ulster and eventually to win the All-Ireland for the second year in a row. As for Donegal, it usually is the same case every year, to be honest. They usually just try to survive. They don't try to go all out and win the league like the likes of Kerry, Armagh this season, Mayo. They'll just try to consolidate their survival. And both these sides, I believe, are on 3 points. Yeah, they're on 3 points, I think they are. So a win here would almost guarantee survival. You'd probably need 6 points to survive. It would say that League Sunday the other night, only Cork, I think in 2016, went down with that number of points. So if you get to that number, that's survival done. And a win either way here at Ballybofey between the sides will guarantee survival automatically, I think.
Yeah, no, very interesting point there. And obviously Tyrone as well, with the amount of players that they're missing, and Donegal too. Michael Murphy, of course, his fitness, not really that sure of. Luke, what do you kind of think of this game? Who do you think is, obviously you mentioned about the players that are missing, but who do you think is more close to their full strength?
Yeah, look, it's a hard one to know, and that I'd nearly say that Donegal probably are closer to their full strength in that it's only really Murphy that's the big kind of absentee at the moment. But I think the worry is looking at last week is what happened down in Kerry, where they didn't show really any ambition in that game at all. I think there's been kind of that video's been doing the rounds online of that where they kept the ball for 5 minutes in possession, and I went back to keeper 4 or 5 times in that move too. So they didn't really show any ambition last week at all to win. And yeah, I'd be more worried about Donegal at the moment, I think Tyrone are quite satisfied with their blood new players. Look like Niall Donnelly, the two Munros in the back as well. Like, I think they'll be quite happy with that. And I actually think the Tyrone are in a better place right now, even with all the players they're missing. They probably only have about maybe 7 or 8 the All-Ireland finalists starting. But I still be leaning towards Tyrone just because of kind of the mentality, I think, right now between the two teams.
Yeah, like me personally, I am going with Tyrone to win this game narrowly though, because that is always the way that these games go down. Matt, who are you tipping to win this one?
I'd probably go Tyrone maybe by a point or two. I think Donegal still have a lot of developing to do yet, and Tyrone will be more equipped really to survive in Division 1. So I'd go with Tyrone in this game. But Donegal should have enough to survive the next few games, in my opinion. They had a decent start, Michael Langan performing well. But I suppose it all revolves around Michael Murphy recovering to see if Donegal do well this year. But for now, yeah, I'd go with a Tyrone win, maybe by a point or two, maybe 3 points.
Yeah, no, so we're all in agreement on that one. I wonder if it will be the same on this one. Dublin against Kildare on Sunday, probably the most anticipated game of the weekend. It's down in Newbridge, the first time since 1995 that Dublin are going to play Kildare in Newbridge. So Kildare will be hyped for this one. And you mentioned there, Matt, as well about the magic 6 points. If Dublin lose this game, they have to beat Monaghan, Donegal and Tyrone to stay up. So this game is absolutely make or break for Dublin. Personally, as a Dublin fan, quite nervous about this one. We look so shaky right now, particularly the Armagh game. We just looked all over the place. Luke, as a fellow Dublin fan, are you confident about this one?
Well, look, I don't know. I suppose when you think about previous meetings with Kildare, you have to say like Dublin do have to be favourites still. I know, but the problem is that we're still kind of unclear on who's coming back when. And the issue, I think, is the forwards. Like the full forward line at the moment, it's non-existent right now, and there's just not enough scores there. I think the fact they'll be up in Newbridge will be a low enough scoring game, which will suit Dublin a bit more. That look, they won't have to put up a big enough tally. Like in Croke Park, you need to hit about 16, 17 scores to win a game. Whereas I think in Newbridge, they can maybe get away with 12 scores. So I think that helps Dublin as well. But yeah, look, they're not in a good place at the moment. And the biggest worry is that the defence is quite close to full strength, and it's still pretty shaky as well. The fullback line looks all over the place at the moment. So look, if they can fix a few things there, get the fullback line a bit more solid and stuff like that as well, and then find a few more scores, maybe hopefully something like Costello come back, I still would lean to the Dubs by a point or two. I don't think Kildare are quite at the level just yet to be already taking over the Dubs, but with the projection, the way the two teams are going, like, I don't think it'll be long before Kildare will be going into games fully expecting to get a result against the Dubs. But I still think for now, Dublin still should be considered slight favourites.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from there, but the fact that people are even considering that Kildare can win this game shows how alarmingly quick the gap has closed. And in the last few games, the form of Daniel Flynn and Jimmy Hyland in the full forward line for Kildare has been fantastic. I mean, Daniel Flynn in the Tyrone game, some of the points he kicked are absolutely fantastic. And just like Matt, who in the Dublin defence can you think can even pick up Daniel Flynn right now, let alone Jimmy Hyland?
It's a tough question, actually. In previous years, you probably would have pointed towards the likes of Davy Byrne or Lee Gannon would have stepped out to the plate a small bit. But looking at the last few performances against the likes of Mayo and Armagh, you can't really pick anybody. That's a really tough question to answer there. But I'd still be optimistic about Dublin. I know that's hard as a Dublin fan, to be honest, with losing the first three games and the manner you lost the first three games. But considering Kerry, Armagh and Mayo are probably the best three teams in Division 1 at this particular moment in time. Dublin are just behind them at the moment. But if they lose to Kildare on Sunday or even draw to them, I said this on the GAA Fan TV podcast, I think, it'll be a disaster. And it'll probably be crisis mode then. And people will definitely be calling for Dessie Farrell's head, not just heat of the moment stuff. This will be permanent now. And look, it's a must-win game for Dublin. If they lose this game, look, one, the Leinster gap has closed, and two, I think you could even go out to Division 2. I know that's a very hard thing to say, considering Dublin have dominated over the last few years, but you need to get to 6 points, as I previously said in this. They have to play Tyrone in that as well, and Tyrone get better as the league goes on, so that's a worry. Donegal and Monaghan, of course. Clonus is a very hard place to go as well. So this is a must-win game for Dublin, not just to draw, but to win it. And it will be very tough because I hear it's a full house there. It's sold out. Tickets are sold out. The Newbridge Stadium will be bouncing that day. Kildare welcoming Dublin for the first time since 1995. Kildare will be definitely up for this. And a chance to relegate Dublin, that'll be a chance they will definitely take with both hands. So this is an interesting game, but it's so crucial Dublin win this game. If they don't, crisis mode, unfortunately.
Yeah,
yeah. Just to hop in there for a second.
Yeah, I think we're very near the crisis. Go ahead, Luke.
Just to elaborate on Matt's point there about the full back line is that, like, these are top players. When you look at Fitzsimons, Lee Gannon, Davy Byrne, stuff that have looked great for all this time as well. Fitzsimons and Byrne have won everything, and now all of a sudden they look so kind of shaky and everything as well. And I think it's the reason why Dessie Farrell's under so much pressure at the moment is because these players have been given absolutely no protection. And you watch them in Croke Park in particularly, where there's about 30, 40 yards of space in front, and there's no full back line in the country that can defend kind of what's like one-on-one with the likes of Brian O'Neill and all these top quality players, and that they've been given absolutely no protection at all. And I think this is the problem that most Dublin fans, I think, have with what's happened with Dessie now, is that just the basic tactical stuff that was taken for granted under Jim Gavin has all seemed to disappear. And like maybe the full back line wasn't this kind of imperious thing the whole way through the 5 in a row, but they were always protected, and that you always knew that somebody was going to play centre half back, whether it be O'Sullivan, Johnny Cooper, and they were going to support. But that's just not there anymore. And look, it's the whole defensive structure doesn't look right. There doesn't seem to be any sort of forward kind of play to create scores. There's no movements, no patterns, no nothing. I think that's the biggest problem for Dublin right now, is that even when these players come back in, that the big names and stuff like that as well, if the coaching structure still remains wrong, like, are they really going to make that much of a difference? And that's my worry with them right now.
Yeah, and to elaborate on your worry there, Luke, like watching the Mayo game, there was one example that just epitomised Dublin's performance so far in the league. Kieran Kilkenny got the ball out on the wing, and I think it was Tom Lahiff that was on his left. And he was clearly pointing at Lahiff, like, get into that space there right in front of me. Lehif was too slow to get into the space. Kilkenny had to turn around and kick it all the way back. And that is literally what has happened in every single game. Dublin's forward movement is now so predictable. And every team, like at the back as well, you're saying there, Luke, about the defence being so exposed. I'm saying it's like Mayo just watched the Armagh game and we're like, all right, let's do that. And Dublin still knew it was coming and did nothing to change, nothing to, let's put a sweeper back there because Mayo are going to kick the ball long. It took Mayo 12 seconds to get a player in the penalty box completely free. Like, that's shocking. And the other thing that you're talking about with the players coming back, it's McCarthy and O'Callaghan to come back. Mayo were missing Pádraig O'Hara, Cillian O'Connor, Tommy Conroy, Owen McLaughlin came off the bench, Aidan O'Shea came off the bench. Mayo have more lads to come back than Dublin had to come back in that game, and Mayo still won relatively comfortably. So the biggest worry is that all players are going to come back. That's the case for every single county team right now, pretty much. So for me, it doesn't wash with Dublin. The system was always the thing that made Dublin so great, along with the players. And the fact that, Luke, you mentioned there that the system looks a bit all over the place, particularly at the back, is the thing that is the biggest worry, because no matter who you plug in there, the identity is kind of lost. So yeah, guys, we've talked a lot about how Dublin are kind of on the ropes, but do we still think that they're going to get the job done? Matt, I'll start with you. Dublin or Kildare for this one?
I'm going to be on the fence for this one. I'm going to go for a draw. But it'll be an interesting game. It will be an interesting game. Kildare will definitely be up for it. But just think Dublin will surely have to get a point on the board. It can't go on. This losing road can't go on, surely. I think it'll be a draw. Probably Dublin will take the lead. They'll take the foot off the pedal a small bit, and Kildare will come back into the game. Similar to the Kerry game, I'm going for a draw, to be honest. I'm on the fence.
Yeah, and do you know what? I can definitely see a draw happening. I think it would be a one point victory for either side here. So I think I'm going to agree with you, Matt. I think I'm going to go with a draw. Kind of frustrating for both teams. Luke, yourself?
I'm going to go with somebody like Kilkenny just to drag Dublin over the line and win it for Dublin. And I think that he's going to have a huge game or something like that. And that he's been kind of doing this lately, just dragging teams. And I think he'll score about 4 or 5 from play and Dublin will win by a point or two.
Yep, can't really argue with that. I mean, he's been someone who's actually played pretty well throughout the league. He was fantastic in last year's championship as well, of course, picking up an all-star. But yeah, let's move on from that game then. Mayo versus Armagh at Dr Hyde Park. Two sides that have made unbelievable starts to the league campaign. Mayo and Armagh both look brilliant. So this is really a clash of informed teams. Matt, I'll start with yourself. What do you make of this matchup?
Yeah, both teams have 5 points. I suppose they can express themselves a small bit. They've definitely survived the division. They only need a point to survive. And yeah, Armagh, they kind of took their foot off the pedal at the weekend against Monaghan. Maybe the hype did get to them after 2 brilliant performances against Dublin and Tyrone. But I think Armagh will have to perform better this weekend to get over Mayo. As for Mayo, let's not forget they don't have any home game this year because they are moved out to McHale Park. So it's a brilliant achievement by them to get 5 points on the board. Donegal, they didn't perform to their best, but they got a point on the board. Dublin, as you rightly said, they were so comfortable in that game. And I was speaking to a few Mayo fans. They were just surprised at how easy they got the win, and considering they were missing so many players as well. So I suppose they'll go in with more energy into this game against Armagh, which is another positive. It should be a very interesting game, this very interesting tie. Obviously, it's a neutral venue because Mayo obviously are away from McHale Park. So we'll give both sides, a bit of a level playing field going into the game. I don't know, is Cillian O'Connor going to come into the team? Maybe it's a bit soon for him. But yeah, Mayo's forwards, even without him, look very good. Aidan Orme looks very good on forward. Ryan O'Donoghue didn't have to do much against Dublin, and he's been doing brilliant in the last 2 games. So maybe he can save his form for this game as well. But Armagh have their forwards, Rian O'Neill, Stephen Campbell coming off the bench. So it tends to be a very interesting game between these two sides. Should be an absolute cracker. And as I said, both sides could express themselves because there's no danger of going down to Division 2 for either side.
Yeah, I agree with you there that will make it kind of a very entertaining game and enjoyable to watch, is that neither side will have really much nerves going into this game. They can kind of express themselves. And if the likes of Rian O'Neill are going to go out and just fully express themselves, we're in for a treat. I mean, his performance in Croke Park will live long in the memory of a lot of Armagh fans, not just Armagh fans, but GAA fans in general. the other thing that I like about Mayo so far is the opening 2 games. It was a real reminder of the grit that they have. I mean, they really had to battle back against Donegal, and the last 2 points, that Ryan O'Donoghue free and that Rob Henley free, that really showed, the mettle that they have in their team. And then the Monaghan game as well, like they really grinded out that win. The Dublin game was a bit easy, but the other 2 results were, earned through blood, sweat, and tears. And I mean, Luke, what do you make of where they're at now in this game? Obviously, Armagh, had the absolutely unbelievable start, the win over Dublin and then the win over Tyrone. I do agree with Matt. I think they kind of believed the hype a little bit, maybe underestimated Monaghan, nearly got caught. Could have won the game. I mean, they shouldn't have given away that foul at the end on Jack McCarron. He was clearly looking for it. I mean, they shouldn't have fouled him. He was waiting for the tackle to come in. So they could be sitting on 3 wins out of 3 right now. But what do you make of their mentality going into this game? Do you think the Monaghan game is like a slap on the wrist type, where now they're gonna, wake up again and take everyone seriously?
Yeah, look, well, I think the interesting part of this going in is it's 2 teams that play similar way. And look, you saw they played against Dublin. That's their preferred style of play. Obviously, the provincial ground, sometimes up in Ulster a lot of the time when the weather's poor and everything as well, they have to adapt. And look, they're well able to adapt to that as well. So look, I wouldn't have too many concerns about Armagh. I think that the Monaghan game there the last day, Monaghan are mounting pretty well, I would say. Like, and I think they look quite well. They look better than a fair few teams in Division 1. I'd probably have them as my 4th team in Division 1 right now. But yeah, no, I don't think they'd be too upset about that Monaghan results in the end. Like those type of games, those conditions and everything as well. We all know the penalty incident as well. They could easily have came out of that with a win there. So I wouldn't be worried about that at all. I just do think, though, that Mayo are the team that are in the best shape right now in all of Division 1. Like even above Kerry, I'd have them right now because like you look at Dublin last week, it was nearly that they went up to Croke Park and rested players for that and gave an opportunity for lads that weren't kind of established in the team to they got a full run in Croke Park as well, and they're going into this Armagh game now where they can bring back the likes of Pádraig O'Hora, Owen McLaughlin, Kevin McLaughlin, all these players in from the start this time. And look, I think they're in a great spot for this. They're going to be close to home. Look, most of the fans the weekend. It's a big enough pitch in Roscommon there now, and yeah, I think I'd have to favour them the weekends. The fact that it's outside of Croke Park and with the conditions I think will lower the scoreline a little bit and I'll keep it a bit tighter, but I would expect them to win by about 4 or 5 points, I think.
Yeah, me too. I think I'm going to go with Mayo to win this one. I think the fact that it's in the Hyde, Mayo have a lot more experience of playing in the Hyde as well than Armagh do. So yeah, I'm going to go with Mayo to win this one. Matt, yourself?
Yeah, I'd probably go Mayo. I'd probably go closer than 5 points. So I'd say it'll be about 2-point victory. And it should be a very interesting game considering, yeah, both sides have no danger of going down and the pressure's off really. And I expect to have a very good game. It's a shame it's not shown on TV, but the GAA don't show GAA Go games this year, which is an absolute farce, but that's for another day's discussion. But yeah, I'd say Mayo will win this game by about 2 points.
Yeah, and I mean, if Armagh win this game, then it's a real kind of statement of intent that they are to be taken seriously. I mean, like the Dublin result has kind of, although it was a brilliant victory, its significance has kind of faded as like every team now is beating Dublin. So like, but no, make no mistake, if they go away to the Hyde and beat Mayo, like serious Ulster contenders, then as if they're not already. And then the last game, Division 1, Monaghan against Kerry in Inniskeen. Now, this one's a very interesting one because Monaghan are a team, in my opinion, that drag everyone into kind of playing their game. And Kerry won't be allowed to play their real free-flowing attacking football that they love to play. It is in Inniskeen. Like, Luke, start with yourself. Monaghan, of course, they've had a bit of a mixed bag, 2 draws and a defeat. But the 2 draws were real kind of battle-worn games, like particularly the Tyrone game. The conditions in that game were absolutely terrible. Do you think that they can kind of drag Kerry into a game like that? Or do you think that they can beat them playing Kerry's game?
Yeah, well, no, look, I think, look, we know how Monaghan are going to play and that they're notoriously hard to beat and everything as well. I think they've been unlucky in the 2 games kind of they played so far. And that, yeah, look, they could easily have a win on the board. And I think their performances kind of have been better than teams that are on more points than them. Like if you're to have a look at kind of like other teams in the division and you say, would you rather be where Donegal are right now or Kildare are right now, you'd probably lean Monaghan. I think they're in a better place than all those. And Yeah, no, I think it's unfortunate that, look, they have to come up against Kerry at this stage, because I think their form's gone in the right way, and look, they're coming up against probably a top 2 team in the division, so that's naturally going to be difficult for them as well. And you would have to lean Kerry due to the fact that Jack O'Connor has decided to play what is pretty much his best available team for every single game so far this year. So yeah, look, I think that the thing with Kerry is now, look, they might motor through the league the whole way here now, and that they'll keep the results kind of coming because they're playing the Cliffords and all this straight away. Sean O'Shea's playing every single minute. But I think for the long term later in the year, I think the way that other teams are carrying out this league, like Mayo as well, I think it'll be far more beneficial as the year goes on, because I think Kerry aren't learning an awful lot from this league. They might be settling on a 15 that we know absolutely what they're going to play later on during the year. But when it comes to developing the panel, I'd much rather kind of go with the approach that Mayo, even Tyrone and Monaghan are doing, rather than Kerry. But look, Kerry will probably get the win, but I just kind of question the way they're approaching the league right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point. And one of the points, Matt, that me and Luke have kind of consistently gone with here is that we're surprised that Kerry are persisting with a spine of the defence of Jason Foley at fullback and Tyg Morley at centre-back, because we were saying that when it got to the semi-final against Tyrone carved them down the middle every single time, particularly for the 3 goals. And we were saying you got Dylan Casey there, who was phenomenal with Austin Stacks. You got Stefan Ockenbar there as well, who came back from the AFL. Now, I know he was injured, but me and Luke are just really surprised that they're not trying to even at least test Dylan Casey and see what he's like in the Kerry defence.
Yeah, it's interesting indeed, because Kerry have had this problem for years, even before the Tyrone game, the Cork game, the first quarter. Remember, Brian Hurley cut through Jason Foley that game. And Kerry don't seem to learn that this guy, he's a decent cornerback, but he's not really a top-class fullback. I think Dylan Casey would definitely be ideal for that. He performed very well for us at Sacks. Arguably was a one-man team to get into them to the Munster final before they eventually lost to the Bars. So it would be worth trying about. And as regards, Luke made a very good point about Kerry playing their first team so early on in the league, and I suppose would play well for being a big thing as well. If Clifford keeps playing Sigerson Cup as well, obviously he played that last week as well, Sean O'Shea, if they keep playing game on game and Mayo keep rotating the team, that's just going to cause more injuries for Kerry later on down the year. And the fact they're not getting tested either, considering the likes of Mayo, Dublin, Armagh, they're not playing their first teams. So that's not really an indicator of where Kerry need to be. And then in Munster, they're hardly getting tested either. That's just a whitewash every year now at this stage. So once they get to Croke Park at the quarterfinals, they're not tested properly. And then, they'll regret it later on in the year. I think Kerry definitely have the team to compete to get an All-Ireland title. But the thing is, Jack O'Connor needs to be smart. Are you gonna play your first team later on in the year, or are you just gonna play them every single week? Because in this day and age, if you play them every single week, you're just gonna cause more injuries. So, look, it's a discussion that will live long into the year, definitely. But I'm worried about Kerry that way. Both their fullbacks, as you mentioned there, and they're not rotating their side that much. They're playing their starting 15 straight away, and I just think it'll cause more injuries throughout the year for Kerry, and they'll look back at it out of regret. Watch now, they'll win the All-Ireland now, but if they don't, they'll regret this decision hugely, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. I think that more squad rotation is important, because obviously in the semi-final against Tyrone last year, when Clifford did get injured, they were forced to bring back on Paul Gainey, a man that they'd taken off in normal time. I mean, that showed that for all this talk about the lack of depth and for the depth in the Kerry panel, they still turned to someone that they'd already taken off to put back on. So this is the time when you can, develop the likes of, David Shaw, Tony Brosnan, Paul O'Shea, get these lads in, give them minutes at senior level and see what they're like at this level. Mayo are doing that, and we're finding out that Aidan Orme is definitely an option for them. There's a bonus. There's so many players that Mayo are digging up and think, okay, this guy can do it at this level. Like Jack Carney, even against Dublin there last weekend, looked fantastic at wing forward, and now looks an option for them in the championship going forward. Whereas Kerry will have to either turn to someone that they already had taken off, or go with someone for the first time and hope that he does well. So yeah, me personally, I'm going with Kerry to win this, same as Luke. Matt, Kerry or Monaghan for this one?
Probably Kerry will be a tight game. It'll be a tough place for Kerry to go, especially in tough conditions. But yeah, I'd say Kerry about 2 or 3 point win, and Monaghan might be looking over their coattails of even surviving in Division 1 this season. Like, they've been there since 2015. Will it come to an end this year? We'll have to wait and see, but Kerry to win this game, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Right, lads. So Division 2, and Matt, I'll start with yourself. Cork against Galway and Páirc Keeve. Now, the performance against Derry, I watched your discussion with Aaron from GAA Fan TV there about the performance against Derry last weekend. Wasn't a great day out for Cork. Do you see them being able to bounce back against Galway here?
Honestly, no, not at all. I also said in Aaron's podcast that I think we'd lose by 20 points, and I actually stand by that. Our performance, like the last day, like we talked about Dublin, not having the will to win and all that, but in the first half there was a bit of drive about them. In Cork, I don't think the drive was there throughout the 70 minutes. Like, for example, we only kicked the ball once in like the 71st minute. Kevin O'Donovan kicked a point, but that was way too late. We scored 1 point from play with the wind. We scored 3 points from play overall. You can't do that at this level. And another thing as well, Galway belong in Division 1. We belong in Division 3. Simple facts, really. I think this could be a really big pasting for Cork to get on Saturday. But I suppose one positive is we have down Meath and Offaly in the last 3 games. We have that to rectify our season. But for this game, I just think Galway are much the better team than us. And there's a lot of fixing needs to be done with Cork football, not just on the pitch, but off it as well. Strength and conditioning. We're getting so many injuries. You talk about Dublin missing so many players. Cork are the most injury-riddled team in the country. We've about plus 10 players injured this year. And why is that? Because we have different strength and conditioning coaches for every grade. That has to change. But for this game, Galway could win this game by 20 points. It could be a big pasting. And it'll up Galway's score difference, and they'll take that going into Division 1 next year, and it will be a major dent to Cork's survival hopes this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. And obviously you mentioned about the players being injured. On top of that, the lads that have opted out of the panel, Mark Collins, Rory Dean, Luke Connolly, these lads are massive blows to Cork. And obviously then Luke, yourself, the Cork Derry game, and then Galway, of course, in their opening 2 league matches against me, they looked brilliant, but they didn't have a lot to do that day. And the way that Division 2 is kind of played out, it really is like a top 4 and a bottom 4. Clare, Roscommon, Derry and Galway are going for promotion, and then Cork, Offaly, Meath and Down are scrapping for survival. Do you see Cork being able to put it up to Galway at all in this game?
No, look, I'd be the same, I think. And like we've heard kind of during the week, Keith Ricken was coming out to the press saying kind of how it could be years of a rebuild and everything like that as well. Look, it's not exactly a positive thing that you want to be hearing. And like, I know people kind of were undoubtedly kind of prepared to give them a lot of time and everything as well. But when you're coming out, you want to see some kind of positives in the first thing, and there's some sort of blueprint of how Cork want to play, like what style they want to play and everything as well. And it all just seems a bit dull right now. Like, I'd be a bit worried because look, the players are there. They've won All Ireland underage titles and stuff like that as well. And these players, like, I know it takes time for them to get their feet at inter-county level, but it still should be a little bit better than what we're seeing at the moment, I think, though. So, I think the players are better than what their form is suggested right now, I think, but based off the last couple of games as well, going into Galway, like Páirc Keeve, the pitch there is immaculate as well, and that's going to suit Galway more than Cork, I think. So, look, I think what's important for Cork is, look, put a good performance in. Just look, I think the score, just try to keep the scoreline down. I can't see any scenario in which they win. And then look, as Matt said, they have a good chance. The last 3 games, they're 3 very winnable games. So look, get a good positive performance, put it up to Galway, test them as well, and then go into those 3 games at the end and back yourself to win those games. And then you stay up in Division 2, and then you've real momentum going into Championship in the following year. And that there's a bit more positivity around it. But yeah, look, it's always about performance this weekend.
Yeah, and speaking of the sides that they will have their last 3 games against, Offaly, against Meath and O'Connor Park, this is a real 4-pointer now. I mean, McEntee by the week seems to be getting more and more frustrated with this Meath side. It's not going his way at all. Going away to Offaly and O'Connor Park, this could be a potential banana skin. Obviously, Offaly playing some really good football under Maughan. In my opinion, it's a year too soon for them to be in Division 2. But in my opinion, if they're going to win any game in Division 2, this could be the one.
Yeah, definitely, it definitely could. But you could argue as well, they they need to win the last game against Cork as well. But yeah, with Andy McAtee, like I saw it from a while out when, clubs turned on him towards the end of the year. That wasn't good for Meath whatsoever. And it's shown on the pitch now. The players don't seem to fight for well, there was a bit of fight in the second half in fairness against Down. They got the last 3 points of the game in tough conditions. Let's not forget, remember Jordan Morris tried to kick one on the sideline, it blew the opposite direction. So I suppose there was a bit of fight there, but then again, you'd expect a Meath team to beat Down at home if you're going to survive at Division 2 at the same time, and Meath didn't do that at the end of the day. And yeah, I think it could. The only positive as a Cork fan is Meath are kind of in as big as disarray as us. Andy McAtee looks a bit frustrated. Keith Ricken is trying to take the positives. That's one positive for us, I suppose. For this game, I think Meath should still be able to win this game. As you said, for Offaly, yes, it is a bit too soon. They kind of looked out of their depth, I think, in Division 2 a small bit. I know they have some very good players coming through. John Mahon's an excellent coach, Tommaso Shader as well. But yeah, I think they're technically a Division 3 team, and I think Meath should have enough to win this game, despite the game being O'Connor Park.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Meath, now is the time they need to win this game, and if they don't, they're down. Simple as. Luke, yourself, are you backing Meath to win this one as well?
Yeah, probably. Look, I'm not really expecting a classic, I don't think. I think it'll be a fairly low scoring game. And there was an awful lot of optimism about Offaly coming into the year with the young players coming through. And look, none of them have actually kind of really made it yet anyway. I think it showed that maybe, I suppose, that a lot of people kind of were used to under 21 winning sides and stuff. And then that extra year that players are able to make that jump. And I think it just highlights that maybe that winning under 20s, it does take a while before players are ready for it, because there's been a lot of talk about the likes of Jack Bryant, all these players as well. And look, I watched him a fair bit in the Sigerson Cup as well and everything, and he just doesn't look kind of ready yet. And he doesn't look to be, he looks like he needs another year or two of development, because he's just physically and just to get used to the pace of inter-county. So I think Offaly, they're having to rely on the lads that kind of got them up to Division 2. And look, let's remember that Division 3 final last year against Derry, they got an almighty beating in that game as well. And so you see, look, Derry are pushing for Division 1 as well, and not, whereas Offaly are really, really struggling to stay up here. So I think this shouldn't be much of a surprise for us that Offaly kind of aren't at the levels of top Division 2 teams, because we saw it last year what was going to happen. So yeah, look, I think Offaly, it's just about try to grind out of points, but look, I think Meath probably have still have enough quality to be kind of that Offaly side. But I think the two of them are in serious trouble of them being the ones that might go down. And yeah, look, I would be confident enough, if from a Cork perspective, I think, of getting results against those two.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned there about Derry, of course, they play against Clare. And I mean, these are two sides that are absolutely pushing for promotion. Clare, again, continue to really impress. I mean, with the amount of players that they've lost over the years, the likes of Aaron Fitzgerald and Gary Brennan, and the fact that they're still going strong and still really the same players. David Tubridy still continues to age like a fine wine. Matt, obviously, you know a lot about Clare and Derry. Which one are you backing here?
This is a tough game to call, actually. Derry performed excellent, especially last year. I don't think they've actually peaked quite yet in the first 3 games. It's just a matter of Offaly, Down, and Cork just not being up to the pedestal in a way. I think this Clare team will actually put it up to Derry, because they're at home. They have some very good players coming through. Colin Collins knows what he's doing as well. They have some very good players. Let's not forget Gary Brennan, Gordon Kelly have retired over the last few years, and they've found players here and there to replace them. So they've done an excellent job, and the underage structures don't seem to be there, given their minor and under 20 teams aren't doing so well in the likes of Munster Championships, but they seem to be still finding players through Sigurdsson, etc. So it's a brilliant job that Colin Collins is doing. The likes of Daniel Walsh, Darren O'Neill coming through the ranks. I hear Joe McGann might be back in the team as well, from a friend I have from Clare. So that'll be a huge boost if he comes back into the team. So I still think Derry will win this game, but I think it'll be tighter than people think. I think it'll be about a 1 or 2 point victory, but I absolutely wouldn't be surprised if Clare win this game. They've done it before. They've beaten Cork, Kildare, Meath, I think, 1 year against all the odds. They could do it again now on Sunday, and Colin Collins is no better coach to pull off a shock.
Yeah, and of course, everyone pretty much was tipping Clare to go down last year, and they ended up pushing for promotion again, also close. that defeat against Cork really derailed their whole promotion campaign. They could be in Division 1 now if they had won that game, because I would have fancied them to go on and beat Meath, because Kildare did go on and beat Meath in that playoff game. Luke, I think this is Derry's toughest test so far out of their first 4 games, by far and away their toughest test. They passed the first 3 with flying colours, as we would have expected them to do. Do you see them passing this one as well?
Yeah, no, look, I completely agree with everything that Matt said there now about like the Clare will be a completely different test as well. Like you look kind of, it's a seasoned team in the National League. They're like David Tubby's top all-time scorer in the National League, always seems to perform in this competition as well, even as he's got older as well, like some Podge Collins in around. And the other big positive, I think, from Clare perspective is that, like, you were talking about the young players as well, the UL team that reached the Sigerson Cup final, the entire half-forward line from Clare, and then Daniel Walsh was in midfield as well. There's an awful lot of young players that are coming through. And like, it's a good point made about that. Like, they didn't perform at underage levels, but they, like, the colleges stuff has shown an awful lot of promise for them as well. So all of a sudden, like, there's an awful lot of talent in the county there as well. But I do think that Derry are my team kind of at the moment that I'm kind of watching I'm most interested watching right now. And I just think there's an awful lot of talent there. And I've been saying this for about a year now, that I think that their midfield of Conor Glass and Emmett Bradley is probably the best in the country right now. I think that it's just the dominance that they have in every single game from those as well. And then you can throw in the likes of Kieran McFall in around there as well too. I think, look, they're just so strong in that area. And especially in conditions like this, tough winter kind of weeks like we've all seen, the weather the last couple of days as well, having a midfield like that and that physical strength in midfield, I think it's just very, very hard to beat right now. And that's why I'd be leaning towards Derry right now.
Yeah, I think so. So we're all in agreement of Derry winning this game, which brings us on to the last one, down against Roscommon in Newry. Now, I think Roscommon are brilliant at doing this, going away and picking up kind of a quiet 4-point victory or 3-point victory, just kind of making minimal fuss and getting the job done. They did it against Meath. They did it against Cork on the opening day. They just go away, pick up the points and go home. They don't really lay a beating on any team, but they just kind of quietly go about their business. They're really, really seasoned in Division 2. They've gone up and down so many times. Matt, do you see them going away to down and doing the same thing?
Strangely enough, I actually don't. I don't think it'll be comprehensive as people think. I think Roscommon are a very good side, don't get me wrong, but I think Down have improved more than what people think. And considering the Kilcoo lads might be coming back into the team for this game, they still have young players coming out through Sigurdsson and all that. Andrew Gilmore looks a very good player coming out through the ranks. Barry O'Hagan, still a very good player. Quayla Mooney, watch out for Finn McElroy at full back. I think is an excellent player playing for Ulster University, the Sigurdsson. So Down definitely have the talent. There's some positivity in Down. They're just bringing these players slowly but surely. Kilcoo lads might come back into the team considering the result against me, the positive performance. So, do you know what? I'm going to go for a shock at the weekend. I think Down will actually win this. I know Roscommon are a good side, but I think Down could be a surprise package in this division. I think they'll definitely survive in this Division 2 campaign, and they could cause a few shocks in Ulster, I'm sure. I'm not sure who they have first. I think they have Monaghan at the quarterfinals, or it could be Cavan. I'm not entirely sure. But they could even win that and drive on, because they're a team that will improve as the year goes on. They were a bit lackluster against the likes of Derry in the first game, but they improved game on game. And look where they are now after a good point against Meath away from home. So it's a shock, I know, but I think they could get the job done against Roscommon this time. They have some very good young players coming through, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you made some great points there, and I definitely see where you're coming from. I think Roscommon are very, very strong. But yeah, I do agree with you that I think Down, if anyone is going to beat Roscommon out of the bottom 4 teams, I do think that it is Down that are going to do it. Luke, do you see Down being able to pull this off, or do you think Roscommon just are too experienced?
Yeah, look, I think I would be leaning towards Roscommon more so. I think that I suppose just looking at the 2 full forward lines at the moment, I'd be looking at Donny Smith, Conor Cox, and Kyle Hennigan right now. And I just think there's more scores in Roscommon right now. And it's a good point about Andrew Gilmore. Looked really, really good in Sigerson as well. He was consistently scoring goals as well for Ulster University. But I just think if comparing the two forward lines, I think I'd be leaning towards Roscommon based off that. And but it's a good point though about Down. And I think the next couple of weeks to watch them with Kilcoo players coming back in, be interested to see how many come back in. There was talk that maybe about 4 or 5 might come straight back into the starting team. So that's the interesting thing to watch. And look, I think by the end of the league, I think it's a good point that look, they're going to improve week on week. And by the end of it, I'd say they'll be good enough. They'll be fairly moving quite well, I'd say, by the end of the league.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Right, lads, let's move down to Division 3. I'm just going to run through the fixtures and just give me your general thoughts about who's going to come out on top in each game. So on the Saturday, we have Louth against Westmeath in St. Mary's, Longford against Fermanagh in Pearse Park. And then on the Sunday, Wicklow against Limerick in Ockram and Laois against Antrim in O'Moore Park. Luke, I'll start with you. Saturday's games, Louth against Westmeath and Longford against Fermanagh. Obviously, Louth had a great win there against Limerick down in UL. I didn't see that one coming myself. I thought Limerick were going to win that game. Westmeath, of course, had their game against, I think it was Longford, postponed. So being there, do you think Louth's kind of momentum could help them out here?
Yeah, I think it could. And look, I think the form of Sam O'Roy in particular is kind of huge for them as well. Look, ever since Mickey Hart's come in, there's no doubt like the mentality's improved, and having somebody like that that's won Ireland's coming in there is definitely boosted the camp as well. So yeah, look, I think they'll be quite happy with how they're getting on at the moment like that as well. And yeah, that's the thing. I think a lot of talk during the week of Sam O'Roy and kind of that he should be playing at the higher level and everything like that as well. He's a top forward as well. So yeah, I'll be leaning towards Louth, I think, at the weekend as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's absolutely fantastic. And then Matt, your thoughts on that game and then the Longford Fermanagh one as well?
Yeah, Longford Fermanagh is an interesting one because both sides are near the bottom of the division. Longford have good young players coming through. There's a question mark about Billy O'Loughlin's management skills. A lot of people say Fermanagh will go down. I've seen one prediction they'll finish 8th in Division 3. I completely disagree with that. I think they're still a tough side to play against. I think Fermanagh should get the win here. I know they've performed poorly over the last few weeks, but they need to get a win, get them 2 points on the board. As for the other game, yes, it's a valid point. Louth could have the momentum with them, but I just think Westmeath shouldn't be in Division 3. A bit like Galway in Division 2. They're way too strong for it. They were unlucky last season to get relegated. They could have even beat Cork in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. So I think Westmeath I wouldn't be surprised if they win 7 out of 7 in this division. They're just that good, not that bad. No, they're that bad. Sam O'Roy's an excellent forward, by the way. And I definitely agree with people saying he could be an age team of the country. But I just think Westmeath will have enough. They have more players in the team. The likes of John Hazen, Ronan O'Toole, Boyd Usays, they're very good players there. So I think Westmeath will get the job done. And Fermanagh in the other game.
Yeah, I agree with both predictions that you have there. And then on the Sunday game, Wicklow against Limerick in Ockram and Laois against Antrim in O'Moore Park. Luke, I'll start with you. 2 very interesting games, of course. Can Limerick bounce back? Going to Ockram be a tough place to go to. And then obviously Antrim and Laois are, 2 teams that are really in form in Division 3 right now, right up there at the top of the table.
Yeah, look, I think the Antrim Laois one is the game to watch, and in particular, and Antrim's form I think is kind of taken back a few people as well. But look, maybe we should have seen coming after Division 4 win last year, where they were comprehensive, I suppose, when winning Division 4. But there's a lot of positivity up there already in Antrim as well. But I thought after the O'Byrne Cup, based off performances, I don't know, maybe it's the fact that I'd over-evaluated Dublin at that stage. I saw the Laois performance against Dublin and thought they'd be in the best shape kind of all the teams in Division 3, considering how closely they ran Dublin, how good they looked against them in that game. But it's kind of been interesting ever since that, like Laois, they haven't looked to be at where I thought they were ever since then. So I'd probably be leaning towards Antrim, I suppose, in this game. And look, there's some really nice players up in that on that Antrim team as well, particularly in the forward line. Oran Eastwood's a player I really like as well. So I'd probably lean Antrim to continue their form. And look, that you talked already about kind of Westmeath's form as well and stuff like there as well. A win for Antrim here, and they're seriously pushing on the door for Division 2, which would be, I think, something that not a lot of people would have predicted in recent years. And look, another huge kind of boost for Ulster football.
Yeah, without doubt. I mean, their performances have been a real welcome addition to the championship. Enda McGinley's running a real smooth operation up there. Matt, your thoughts on that game and then the Wicklow Limerick one in Ockram as well?
Yeah, Antrim Laois, as Luke rightly said, is an intriguing one to watch there. Antrim has some very good players coming through. Kevin Small and Mark Jordan are another 2 that performed well in the last weekend or so. So yeah, I'd back Antrim for this game. I'm not sure about Laois, to be honest. I seen them against Cork last year. I didn't really rate them. I know they have young players coming through their ranks, but I know they ran Dublin close, but maybe that's an indicator of where Dublin are at the moment at the same time. So, yeah, I'd say Antrim should win this game. I think quite comfortably as well. As for the other game, like you say, Antrim could push Westmeath close. I think Limerick could, like considering Limerick beat Antrim. They have goals in their team. Brian Donovan looks a very good player, full forward. It was a bit of a blip losing to Louth. I suppose the preparation wasn't ideal moving to UL that day. But I think they should beat Wicklow in this game. A word on Wicklow as well. They're without Davy Burke this season. Shawnee Furlong retired. Everybody said they'd end up at 0 points, but they're making a real fight of it and staying in Division 3. So fair play to them for that. But I just think Limerick will have enough in this game. They'll have the goals to win it. And I think Antrim will win the other game.
Yeah, I agree with both predictions there, which takes us down to Division 4, lads. So, first game on Saturday in Ruislip is London against Wexford. Obviously, London, the story of the league campaign. Then Waterford against Leitrim in Fraher Field. Cavan against Carlow in Breffni Park. And then on the Sunday, Tipperary host Sligo in Semple Stadium. Matt, I'll start with you. Obviously, the London-Wexford game is the one that really kind of is the one that is most anticipated. Can London continue this run?
You would say they can with the fans behind them, and Wexford are a bit hit and miss. I predicted obviously Wexford to get promoted in from Division 4 to Division 3. It hasn't really worked out that way so far, but arguably they've been playing two very good sides so far in this division in Sligo and Cavan, who are clearer of the rest. I think this will be London's biggest test. I know Leitrim have Andy Moore coming in, Ryan O'Rourke's a good player and all that, but I think Wexford will really put it up to London. Oh, it's a tight. I've always backed the team playing London in Division 4, and they've won 3 games on the bounce. Will they do it again? You know, I'm just going to go for Wexford win. I think there's still something in this Wexford team. There surely is. I know Johnny Waters retired in the past few days. Another big loss for them. But there's a new vibe in Wexford. There's some very good young players there. Martin O'Connor is one I'm really interested in. So I think Wexford should win that. A one that I'm really intrigued in on Saturday night between Tipperary and Sligo. Doubleheader, obviously, with the Hurlers playing Dublin first for Tipperary. I think Sligo could give them a quite big pacing here. We chatted off air about Tipperary, how drastically their form has changed since they won that Munster title. But I'd argue over the last year's team against Kerry, only one of the forwards remained, Conor Sweetie. So the fall isn't as unpredictable as people might think. And as for Sligo, scoring 28 points in their last game against Carlow, superb achievement from them and some very good players. Imagine if they had Red Oak Murphy in that team, they'd probably rule Division 4 in all honesty. So Tony McAtee seems to be doing a good job there. I think Sligo will win those. And as for the other 2 games, I think Cavan will win against Carlow, and I think it's Leitrim against
Waterford.
Waterford, oh yeah, and I think Leitrim will win that, definitely. So Leitrim, Cavan, Wexford and Sligo for the wins, in my opinion.
Yeah, very interesting predictions there. Luke, what do you make of Division 4 this week?
Yeah, look, to be honest, that was the game that caught my eye as well, was the Sligo Tip game as well. And I think the narrative before the competition from a lot of people was that, look, Cavan and Tip will go back up and everything like that as well, based on what they've done in recent years. And look, I think this is the game where Tip are confined to another year in Division 4. I think Sligo are just moving so well. Like we talked about Samuel Roy kind of being able to make it to any team, but I think Niall Murphy hasn't been talked about enough, like consistently scoring over 10 points a game and stuff as well. His tallies have just been absolutely insane for Sligo in recent years. And yeah, between himself, Luke Toey, there's a serious amount of talent in that Sligo team. And yeah, look, they just seem to be going the right direction right now. So I do think that they're going to beat Tip anyway. Like, again, I think that they could win it by about 5 or 6 points. The other games, I do think that if they like, bar the London Wexford game as well, I think they kind of pick themselves. Like Leitrim should win handy enough. And then as well, I think Carlow's form is pretty alarming. I think they're in an awful place right now. So I think that Cavan, like, they've been kind of sneaking through games. I think this is one where Cavan really kind of power through and then put in a statement here with a huge enough score, I think, against Carlow. And yeah, and then look, I'd probably differ slightly. I think that London out there in Ruislip as well, I think based on their momentum and everything there as well, I think it's going to be really difficult for Wexford going out there. I think London are going to go 4 from 4, and I think something that I don't think anybody really foresaw, but I think they'll be in a great spot to go up to Division 3 after this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm going with London to beat Wexford, Leitrim to beat Waterford, Cavan to batter Carlow, and Sligo to beat Tipperary. But either way, it will be very interesting to see how it all plays out. Lads, thanks a million for coming on, doing this preview with me. Matt, thanks a million for coming on again.
No problem, Shane. Happy to help.
All right. So, guys, that is our Play on GAA preview of round 4 of the Allianz Football League. If you want to catch our preview of the Allianz Hurling League fixtures for this weekend, it's over on Matt's channel there, GAA Statsman. And yeah, go have a look at that. Until the next video, guys, here on Play on GAA, take care.